Well, I used to be quite on board with the new atheism stuff. I've spoken about this a lot on my show.
What does that mean?
You know, like the sort of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens. It was
Yeah.
really popular. The debates that they were doing, they called it new atheism.
Yeah.
And it was this body of like atheist thought with the God delusion and this kind of stuff, which was really popular. And it had this sort of quite strident, you know, debate me, bro, kind of attitude. And I was really swept up by that. I thought that was really exciting and cool. And I was beginning to sort of shake that off and grow up a bit, essentially. And then running the podcast, what I've realized is that this is far more interesting and intricate, and I would say plausible than I'd given it credit for before. So, you know, I'm still not a Christian.
That's our brilliant friend and comrade, Alex O'Connor. Once again, just making me wonder about things. Apparently 20 years ago, or more like 10 in Alex's case, Christianity was less plausible than it is today because people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens just needed to grow up a bit and grasp the intricacies, which Alex has now done. Meaning I've become less grown up because I find Christianity less plausible now than I did 10 or 20 years ago. Alex would love to be a Christian.
My listeners know that I'm somebody who would love to be a Christian. I'd love for it to be true.
Whereas I find Christianity entirely absurd and an unending source of moral depravity. Indeed, I've called Jesus a moral monster for his embrace of slavery, genocide, misogyny, etc. You know the routine. So, in my wondering, I've come up with a series of questions for Alex specifically regarding the way Christianity has changed over the last 10 to 20 years, becoming more plausible. And in the spirit of Christmas, I'm going to have Kevin help us out with this because it's not the grown-ups who will lead us, but a child. Broadly speaking, is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God created a place for sentient beings which is filled with evil and sin, both of which are on God's I hate those things more than bacon list? And remember, the all-knowing part means that God knew that creating this world would result in evil and sin, to say nothing of the suffering creating this world would cause to the sentient beings he loves so very, very much, and put here entirely without our consent. Is that more plausible in 2025?
I don't think so.
Broadly speaking, is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that an all-loving God, the paragon of moral excellence, would allow people to own other people as property? Is it more plausible now that such a being would also allow children to be perpetual slaves who could be passed down as inherited property? Is it more plausible now that a morally perfect being would allow such slavery to be applied unequally to men and women, with women being treated more harshly? Of course. Is that more plausible now in 2025?
I don't think so.
Alex has been a genuine champion for animal rights, even advocating veganism for a time. So, broadly speaking, is it more plausible now than it was, let's say 10 years ago, that an all-loving, all-powerful God would use the brutal process of natural selection to create his desired species? Is the 800 million years of horrific animal suffering, including the various other human species we've shared the planet with, is that more plausible now versus 10 years ago, prior to Alex's growing up?
I don't think so.
Moving into the lightning round, is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that there was a global flood and that a man gathered all the animals of the earth into a ship 1/3 the size of the Titanic for more than a year? Is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that there was once light before there were stars? Is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that an all-powerful God needed to rest?
I don't think so.
Is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that an all-knowing God was once completely ignorant of female biology, oblivious to the fact that women don't always bleed the first time they do the deed? Is it more plausible now that an all-loving God would send a couple of she-bears to maul 42 young boys who mocked his prophet? Are talking serpents and donkeys more plausible now that Now that Alex is all grown up.
Our little boy is all grown up tonight. And you know what, big boy? You're grown up. You're grown up. Yeah, dig that. Is this a fucking production for you? Because you're grown up and you're grown up and you're grown up.
Is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that people long dead rose from their graves upon Jesus' death? That Peter's shadow could heal people? That Jesus cast a bunch of demons into a herd of pigs? That a man dead for 36 hours rose from the grave and later flew up into the sky where heaven is? Is it more plausible now that Jesus' followers used to perform all manner of miracles, but that those miracles are now limited to finding Jesus' face on various bread products? Is that more plausible now in 2025?
I don't think so.
Finally, is it more plausible now than it was 10 years ago that the only genuinely meaningful event in the 13.8 billion year history of our universe, the resurrection, the one moment for which the entire universe was created and in which we all must believe to be saved from the fiery pit of hell, has not one single eyewitness account, but was instead written about only decades later by people who weren't even there? Is that more plausible now in 2025?
I don't think so.
I don't know how this worked for Alex, but when I was a child, I was far more inclined to believe in magic and magical beings, things like dragons, fairies, angels, demons, mythical beasts, and magical spirits of all kinds. Santa, the Tooth Fairy, dying and rising godmen, moderate Republicans. It was growing up for me that caused me to be less gullible. But maybe that just works in reverse for our friends across the pond. I don't know. Once again, I'm me. Thanks for watching. To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.